Potatoes are one of my favorite crops to grow. All year long, they have these plants above ground, but the real valuable thing that you're going for is buried where you can't see it. So when you finally get to peek at them and go and harvest them, it's just such an enjoyable experience. In the past years, I've grown potatoes the way people typically grow them. You have to fertilize them, water them, weed them, and hill them up so the sun doesn't make them turn green. But recently, God's been showing me that in nature, things are done so different. So last fall, I decided to copy how it's done in nature. If you go out in nature, there's bulbs underground, root crops that are growing, and there's mulch over it. And because they grow in the same spot and they multiply, they spread out and eventually get huge colonies of roots underground. So this last fall, I went and I raked away the hay, I laid the potatoes in, and then I had recovered them. And all winter long they sat there, which is something most farmers don't ever do because they have to till the soil in the spring. So this spring I went out and I dug up one of the potatoes, and I was so surprised at what I found. The main potato had put out its roots, and it had put two little potatoes were already growing even without a plant on it. Now, one thing that farmers also do is when they're growing potatoes, they'll take the potato and they'll cut it into like quarters just to get a piece of eye on every potato, which sort of makes sense if you think about it, because then you have more plants. But then if you really go back and analyze it, you realize there's smaller potatoes with less energy. And so even though you have more plants, there's less energy in those little quarters to go into the plant. And so you end up with smaller potatoes. But if you have a big whole potato and you plant it that has tons of eyes with more roots, the plant grows bigger and then puts all that energy into the roots, produces more bigger potatoes. So when I planted them in the fall, I put them in whole so that they wouldn't rot and so that they would have bigger plants. Another thing is, people typically will hill the potatoes to keep the sun from making the potatoes turn green. What I noticed in nature is that the soil is loose and the ground is covered with a mulch. And as those roots expand, the soil roofs for it and the mulch lifts so that you never have roots being exposed to the sun. So rather than having to do all the work hilling, weeding, watering, and fertilizing, because of the mulch and the rich soil, root crops can grow and expand and grow a lot better than in a tilled soil. So this year I'm growing a bunch of potatoes that I've started by looking at nature and how God does things differently than man does things. I'm really excited to see how that will turn out.